watching this, I'm not sure. Yeah, Speaker of the House, y'all. The immune system kicked in against the woke mind virus. Yeah, his Cardi B pathways were activated. All right, we're gonna move on from this. Holy shit. Let's take a look at this. We went to the ADL's anti-Semitism conference and saw Palestine activists compared to neo-Nazis.
Not that anti-Semitism is on the rise. From the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, where white supremacists chanted Jews will not replace us, to the emergence of the Great Replacement theory, Jewish people are once again finding themselves being scapegoated for the problems of an empire in crisis. Now, you might think that the rise of openly fascist movements around the world would be of the highest concern to those fighting anti-Jewish hate. But at the Anti-Defamation League's annual conference on anti-Semitism, there was only one subject up for discussion: how to crush the movement for the liberation of Palestine.
For over a century, the Anti-Defamation League has cultivated its reputation as the premier organization dealing with matters of anti-Semitism and is almost always brought in to judge its alleged incidents. In one analysis, researchers found that the ADL was mentioned in 2/3 of 46
I'm live on YouTube.
mentioning white
How easy.
nationalism from 2018 to 2019. Despite the ADL's reputation
moderation.
as an infallible anti-racist organization.
Speaking of Blink 182, Nickelback. I know it.
I'm live on YouTube. How easy. Moderation.
Okay, that kind of broke me a little bit.
This like that doesn't move my
Fucking. Hopefully the DMCA strike is powerful enough that it'll like crush the building. That it'll just be it'll like the DMCA satellite will be like targeting Levelhead, and then the building will crumble on top of me.
I love that edit.
Organization, the ADL has long been accused of selectively deploying accusations.
I didn't know you were a Nickelback apologist. I always say you gotta look at them in the time that they were made. People only started hating on them whenever, they were no longer relevant. Okay? Share some things in the Discord. If you ever want to do a stream or a segment on Palestine, I can always help you if you want me to. Okay.
Anti-Semitism and being purveyors of anti-black and anti-Palestinian racism themselves. And that's exactly what I saw at the ADL's annual anti-Semitism conference, Never Is Now, held in New York City. The conference began with a few speeches speaking generally about the evils of anti-Semitism. But within a half hour or so, the conference moved on to the real issue at hand. Under the guise of morphing threats of anti-Semitism, ADL CEO Jonathan Greenblatt began laying out a picture of a world fully gripped by the forces of anti-Semitism. A world where, wait for it, Ben & Jerry's would no longer sell ice cream to Israeli settlers.
Brands like Ben & Jerry's, who knew when they announced that they would not sell ice cream in the West Bank, it effectively would end their presence in all of Israel.
If you're scratching your head right now, I don't really blame you. When most people think of the morphing threat of anti-Semitism, they're usually not talking about Cherry Garcia. So what does this have
And
to
this
do?
is the ultimate failure of criticisms of anti-Semitism from institutions like the ADL. You can be against anti-Semitism, but if you start criticizing Israel, you are no longer on the team. If you criticize openly fascist governments doing apartheid, you cannot be on the team.
Do with anti-Semitism? Well,
I have 2 Ben & Jerry's in the freezer right now.
it all comes down to how you define anti-Semitism. Most people would say anti-Semitism is the hatred of Jewish people. This would include acts of violence, threats, slurs, and racist tropes. But for decades, the ADL has desperately tried to attach another article onto the definition of anti-Semitism: criticism of the state of Israel.
Yep.
Ben and Jerry's, according to the ADL, is anti-Semitic because they took up a call from Palestinians to boycott Israel for its human rights abuses. In fact, the entire focus of the conference was not identifying or confronting far-right groups and ideologies, but instead legitimizing this pro-Israel definition of anti-Semitism. Nearly half the panels scheduled for that day were explicitly about equating criticism of Israel with anti-Semitism. The first panel I went to was called New Tactics in Anti-Semitism, and I thought maybe this has something to do with the rise of the far right. Nope. This entire panel was dedicated to attacking a website called the Mapping Project, a website which tracks ties that different Massachusetts institutions have to Israel. Now, even though nothing on the website is factually untrue, the panel felt so threatened by the website that one of the panelists actually said that the concept behind the Mapping Project was the exact same as the Tree of Life synagogue shooting.
What? What? Dude, that is so out of pocket. What the fuck?
Which was the deadliest anti-Semitic attack in U.S. history.
The Mapping Project Method is the same underlying conspiracy theory as the man who murdered 11 Jews in Pittsburgh.
The shooter, Robert Gregory Bowers, was a hardened neo-Nazi who obsessively posted about a made-up Jewish plot to flood white countries with immigrants. While the panel about the Mapping Project went on for about an hour, there was not a single mention of white supremacist groups on a panel.
This is exactly the same energy as saying like Ilhan Omar saying that money in politics has a corrupting influence and is the reason behind the military-industrial complex's funding and aid to Israel, and calling that anti-Semitic. Insane. And these people will have no problem with the crimes against humanity that the state of Israel, puts upon the Palestinian people. No problem at all.
And that's exactly what I saw at the ADL's annual anti-Semitism conference, never is now, held in New York City. The conference began with a few speeches speaking generally about the evils of anti-Semitism. But within a half hour or so, the conference moved on to the real issue at hand. Under the guise of morphing threats of anti-Semitism, ADL CEO Jonathan Greenblatt began laying out a picture of a world fully gripped by the forces of anti-Semitism.
Riley. Very cool.
This committee donating to politicians might have an impact on their positions on Israel. In 2018, the ADL led a campaign against then CNN commentator Mark Lamont Hill for saying, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," which the ADL said was a coded message that secretly meant that Hill wanted to destroy the state of Israel. The ADL campaign got Hill fired from CNN. Going back to the 1980s, the ADL blocked anti-racist school curricula prepared by the National Anti-Klan Network because they deemed it too radical. And in 1967, the ADL compared the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee to a black version of the KKK because of its support for Palestine. To this day, the ADL still conditions its support for black liberation movements on whether or not they support Israel. In 2016, the ADL denounced the Black Lives Matter movement after BLM released a policy platform criticizing...
Let me put it this way. Here, there's a great person to add to this conversation. This is Norm Finkelstein, son of Holocaust survivors, replies to Mark Ruffalo's "Both Sides Garbage" on the genocidal Israel apartheid state's occupation and mass murder of Palestinians, including over 70 children in the past 2 weeks. This is from 2021.
I don't respect that anymore. I really don't. I don't like and I don't respect the crocodile tears the crocodile tears. No. I'm sorry, folks. Allow me to finish and allow me to finish. Listen, sir. Allow me to finish. Sir, I don't like to play before an audience the Holocaust card. But since now I feel compelled to. My late father was in Auschwitz. My late mother, please shut up.
These are students from the same program that they're talking about in this ADL video, who are telling Norm Finkelstein, the son of Holocaust survivors, that criticisms of Israel are akin to the Holocaust. That if you, as a Jewish person, support the Palestinian struggle, then you are doing the legwork of anti-Semites.
My late father was in Auschwitz. My late mother was in Majdanek concentration camp. Every single member...
Notice the hysteria, right? These kids who are like, freaking out over here. This is a genuine, hysterical moment for this kid, right? This is what indoctrination does. When your entire worldview, when your entire upbringing, when everything you've been propagandized and indoctrinating into believing to be true is pushed back against, right? Like whenever you tell your, fundamentalist Christian aunt, that you're an atheist or that, you're gay, and they're like, they freak out, right? Their core, belief structure, their own identity is questioned and given, actual pushback. And they can't handle it. They break down. Best piece of fictional media I ever saw on this, and this is by no means to trivialize the real world issue, was from Doctor Who, in my opinion, who have you ever seen the particular speech from Peter Capaldi gave about this kind of thinking? Yes, I've seen it. When that happens, just keep talking. Crowds thrive on acknowledging interruptions in this situation. Yeah.
My family, on my father's side, the Jews did not take arms against the Germans. My late father was in Auschwitz concentration camp. My late mother was in Majdanek concentration camp. Every single member of my family on both sides was exterminated. Both of my parents were in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. And it's precisely and exactly because of the lessons my parents taught me and my two siblings that I will not be silent when Israel commits its crimes against the Palestinians. And I consider nothing more despicable than to use their suffering and their martyrdom to try to justify the torture, the brutalization, the demolition of homes that Israel daily commits against the Palestinians. So I refuse any longer to be intimidated or browbeaten by the tears. If you had any heart in you, you would be crying for the Palestinians.
That's true. That's true. He's incredible. There's a bunch of moments in this thread about
I don't respect
about
that.
Norm, but he's awesome. He's awesome. I'm actually going to let's see. God, I wish I could embed, learn how to do the embed videos. But yeah, this is just great. I'm just gonna leave this up for later. I'll figure out how to do it. Hey, what's up, Leo?
Israel, despite releasing multiple statements,
Just got on, was so confused. This guy seems awesome. He's great. Also, just to here, just to give you guys extra content on Norm. Where is it? Oh, this is the whole video. Norm also called out the Dersh, Alan Dershowitz, to his face for plagiarizing and committing fraud in one of his books. It was great. Like, to his face on Amy Goodman's show on Democracy Now! He was like, I've read this entire book, and I've read all of your references. I've gone through the entire index, the entire glossary, and you have committed a fraud. You have plagiarized multiple pieces of work from other writers and outright lied about many things in this book. It is incredible that you are on this program saying that this is an original piece of work. Alan Dershowitz is actually like pro-pedophile? Yes, he is.
The murder of George Floyd, the ADL will never tell you that they're one of the largest non-governmental sponsors of police exchanges between the United States and Israel, where repressive policing tactics are exchanged. So it really comes as no surprise that there's been a historically instinctive solidarity between anti-racist and Palestinian protesters facing off against tear gas and repression. Historically, white Europeans have always been the main purveyors of anti-Semitism, not black people. But for an organization hell-bent on blurring the connection between the...
There's also, I hate how they left this out, explicit solidarity in Ireland for the Palestinian struggle. One European country, still, if you're, honest with yourself, living under apartheid, showing solidarity with another country living under apartheid. Love this shit. ADL unironically going, everyone I don't like is Hitler. Yep.
Palestinian struggle and the struggle of other oppressed nationalities, the long history of black Palestinian solidarity constitutes a tremendous threat. This strong support for Palestine among oppressed nationalities is also why there's so many white nationalists who, despite their vicious anti-Semitism, support Israel. Richard Spencer, who famously sig-heiled Trump's 2016 presidential victory, is actually an outspoken supporter of Israel. Why?
Because they want somewhere to put Jewish people. That's why. Let's just keep it simple. The reason that you see a lot of white nationalists and paleocons and neoliberals supporting Israel is because they want somewhere to put Jews. And on top of that, the most reliable voter base in the country, if we're just talking about electoral politics, the most reliable voter base in the country is evangelical Christians who do believe that once all of God's chosen people are in Israel, the sky will crack open, Jesus Christ will ride a horse with a flaming sword through the sky and fight a 5-headed dragon. Mega doo-doo will happen. That is why. It's an end times death cult.
Because, in his own words, Israel resembles the type of white-only ethno-state he wants to create in the US. Israel is a two-tiered legal system, one set of rules for Jews and another for Arabs. Israel has Jewish-only roads and Jewish-only schools. Jews have one type of ID while Arabs have another. Israelis are free to travel anywhere in Palestine, whereas Arabs are forced to apply for travel permits and endure brutal and humiliating checkpoints. The legal system also fosters a deeply racist mentality towards Arabs. Polls show that about half of Israeli high schoolers don't think Arabs should have the right to vote. Another poll showed that almost half of Israeli Jews don't want Arabs teaching their kids. It's basically
Okay, that's cool. I'll just stop this and then start another one.
I hate the Jews.